Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar from GenZ Consortium, our State of the State address for 2020. We will begin the webinar in about 2 minutes. We will give folks a chance to continue joining, so we'll be back with you shortly. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, the GenZ Consortium 2020 State of the State Address. Today's presentation will be provided by Kurtis Bowman, GenZ Consortium President, and Hiran Patel, the GenZ Consortium Vice President. If you do have a question during the chat, you can use the feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and we'll address any questions at the end of the session. With that, I will go ahead and turn things over to Kurtis Bowman.
Thank you, Rachel. Hello, my name is Kurtis Bowman. I'm the president of the GenZ Consortium. My sincerest hope is this webinar finds you, your family, and friends doing well in this year. I'm joined by Hiran Patel, our VP, and we're going to talk to you about the progress that the consortium has made in this unique year, as well as the outstanding work done by the members of GenZ. It's been a weird year. We're in the midst of a lot of industry struggles, technologies continuing to advance, and GenZ is still playing an important role now that we're all generating so much content at the edge. It really makes a difference in being able to use that data and get something from it. Let me start with a reminder of why we started the GenZ Consortium a few years ago. The first thing we looked at was we needed to be able to disaggregate our components. The accelerators, the memory, the storage, and the compute, they're all growing at different rates. And so we need to be able to allow those to grow in the way that they need to grow without requiring investment in all of these things to move forward. In addition, we really looked at it and said the world is moving to a memory-centric architecture. And in order to do that, we need a fabric that allows for the performance and the protocols used for memory-centric environments. So what that really looks at is when you think about the types of compute you might have, be it x86, GPUs, ARM processors, maybe even some specialty processors that are more domain-specific, they all want to act on the same data. And in order to do that, we need that data to be put into memory pools that everybody has equal access to. And of course, if you're going to be working with memory, you need to be a high-performance bus. And that goes beyond the speed of the bus itself. There's certain physics that everybody is working with that define the speed that you can run at. But it also talks about the protocol. And you need to be able to do simple reads and writes, just like the CPU does. You shouldn't be using large stacks to be able to get to your data. And so we've done a lot of work to make sure that we are using the reads and writes as well as a very efficient protocol. Finally, it needs to be a fabric. It needs to be something that everybody has equal access to. So in GenZ, every port on the switch is an equal opportunity port for the devices plugging in. And what that allows is for all those devices I talked about earlier to have equal access into the memory without having to worry about any sort of protocol or hierarchy or going through some other device to get to that memory. And then finally, compatibility was a key piece in what we were working on. What we looked at was we wanted GenZ to be very open. We wanted it to be something that was not proprietary and allowed you to be able to pick from your favorite vendor to get the kind of components you want, or if they didn't have them, to be able to go to other vendors and be able to integrate it into your environment. You know, things like Ethernet have done a great job at that, and that's really what we thought of as one of the areas where we wanted to be like an Ethernet fabric to be able to provide that freedom to people who use GenZ. Lastly, nothing is complete without security in today's day and age. And what we made sure of was that security is built into the protocol itself. And so it's very easy to make sure that if your component has access to an area of memory or any of that memory at all, that it's put in place. Plus we do things like encryption that allows you to encrypt data at the source or on the fly, as well as things like timers to avoid man-in-the-middle attacks, so you don't get the replays. And that was really the overview of everything we did with GenZ to make sure that it became an important part of your environment. Early this year, we were able to release the 1.1 specification, and it's available for download on our website. In order to download, you don't need to be a member, but we, of course, highly encourage you to join as a member. And what that'll do is allow you to take part in future functional and compliance specifications that we're working on now. And at GenZ, we believe that we all do better in the industry if we're aligned to a common goal and base implementations. And to that end, we donated a bunch of the work that we did on the GenZ connector, the cable, and the form factor to SNIA. And we did that because SNIA is known for being the place that holds a bunch of that information already. Once that was donated, we also saw that it was picked up by the MDME group as well as OCP as connectors that they want to use for some of their future implementations. So we're very appreciative for SNIA taking those in and making them widely available. And we're very proud of those industry relationships. Let me highlight a few from this year. You see from the previous slide, we have a well-established relationship with our friends at SNIA, and they're the hub for form factors and connector specifications. We completed an agreement with CXL this year with the goal of creating a high-performance bridge between the two protocols. And this work is moving along quite nicely, with use cases having been identified and now being prioritized by the members that are part of both organizations. And I really encourage you to keep an eye on the progress in this area, as I think we're going to see that as something that really blossoms as we look into next year. Similarly, we're working with OFA to define a universal fabric manager that can be used for GenZ and other fabrics. OFA is a fantastic group that has allowed us to work with them on really defining what's the next generation fabric manager look like. So it's been a great experience working with that group. Now let me pass the baton to Hiran, who will introduce himself and talk to you about some of the key things that our members have been doing this year.
Awesome. Thanks, Curtis. For those that don't know me, my name is Hiran Patel. I'm a VP at the GenZ Consortium, and I'm glad to be here with Curtis to bring you the state of GenZ. The Proof of Concept Working Group, affectionately called the Pakiwok, has done a lot of great work this year and in years past. In 2019, we had demo racks with switches, media boxes, multiple servers, and a base UPI to GenZ demo. In 2020, even with COVID-19 complicating things like industry collaborations, lab accessibility. There were even more demos, virtually of course, and more participation from member companies than before. Additionally, Smart Modular Technologies introduced a micro development kit in conjunction with several other companies. I'd suggest watching the video on the link that's provided. It talks a little bit more about the kit that's available today. And these kits have gone out to companies around the world. I believe 7 different time zones and counting. Sorry, Curtis. Next slide's fine. Thank you. Because we can't play the video here, I've added a few more slides on the kit to go into a little bit more detail. But again, more details are available in that video. The kit shown here can be used for GenZ OS software development. It can be used for GenZ management software development. Also, you can run software applications that make use of load store and memory-driven computing. Next slide. Curtis. Thank you. So this shows the GenZ micro development kit. It's a complete setup. Performs load store memory access across the GenZ fabric. It includes an ARM-based A53 quad-core processor that can do the load store. It has flexible cabling types and options that allows for various topologies. You can do a simple load store. You can do multiple hosts to single shared memory, or multiple hosts to multiple memories. All the IP was provided by, all the GenZ IP was provided by Intelliprop, and there is a Linux subsystem and GenZ driver published to GitHub. In summary, companies can now develop software, test, and play with GenZ, and I'm looking forward to see how these kits are used in 2021. I kind of briefly mentioned this, but now that we have a micro development kit available, we can really see acceleration of work coming out of the GenZ Linux subsystem team, the GLSS. This is a group of folks working on GenZ Aware OS, in-band management, and bridge drivers, all running on the micro development kit, the MUDK. Additionally, media boxes are available through the consortium to provide a platform for remote and disaggregated memory evaluation. The media box contains an integrated 12-port switch, and it contains slots for anywhere from 1 to 6 GenZ ZMM or memory modules. So in addition to getting the kits and the media boxes out this year, GenZ's also been active in promotion. We've hosted 2 webinar series this year, a tech series and an ecosystem series. And several representatives of GenZ member companies have presented on these interesting topics. Our spring 2021 series on heterogeneous computing is now in the works. Make sure you register for a free Bright Talk account and check your website for updates on upcoming webinars. The GenZ vlog was also launched this year, featuring member company representatives sharing information on their GenZ work and experience. It's a great way to learn why companies have joined GenZ and what they look forward to in the future. It's pretty informative, and there's a picture of me. The consortium's always exploring ways to expand this platform and content in 2021. But that's not all we've done, right, Curtis?
Absolutely true. In addition, we've really expanded our newsletter. We took it from this year, where it was originally just a members-only newsletter, and converted that to having also an external newsletter. And each quarter we share lots of updates of information and about things that are about to happen. In addition, you get my take on how things are going in the consortium and in the industry, the latest news on GenZ, technology updates, information on upcoming events, and ideas on how you can get involved. If you'd like to receive the newsletter, just click the checkbox at the bottom of the contact page to let us know that you'd like to receive the updates on GenZ. In addition to the newsletter, we're doing a bunch of events. Let me talk a little bit about those events that have happened over about the past 18 months. In the back half of last year, we were privileged to be able to participate in events that included Flash Memory Summit, Data Center Dynamics London Show, and Supercompute. At the time, we didn't realize just how privileged we were to be able to interact with people face-to-face at these events. And you can see from the pictures, we had great interest in GenZ, learning what it was about, how it might be used, and when it might be available. In 2020, all of our internal and external events have been virtual. This has brought some challenges with it, but as you see, GenZ members have continued to make great progress, and we've been able to support the Open Fabrics Alliance workshop, DCD's San Francisco show, and we returned to Flash Memory Summit and Supercompute this year with virtual booths. Hiran, will you tell us about the virtual demos that our members created for these?
Certainly, yeah. I'm very impressed with how this consortium has many active participants stepping up and producing various technical demos this year. The consortium really relies on member companies to make progress, from specifications to promoting GenZ and showcasing demos. This year, while we've had to shift to virtual booths, we've probably had the most diverse videos in our history, or demos, I guess. Next slide, yeah. I would encourage all of you to check these videos out, see what member companies are up to. You can view all of the demos by visiting the GenZ site and going to the video drop-down menu under Resources. This slide contains a screenshot of a demo video example from ETRI. Using a host connect, switch, and an EZMM, the demo goes over the file system drivers that were created to support the demo. The performance screenshot is a comparison of an NVMe device and the ETRI GenZ memory solution. Using different value sizes, the performance is shown to be 34 times faster on a 16-byte value size. And this is just an example of the great work done by member companies. Overall, the consortium and members have been busy developing education materials as well. To date, I believe 39 tutorials, 17 white papers and reference architectures, 5 webinars, and new GenZ introduction videos, and 15 blogs have all been produced. So we've been pretty busy. But Kurtis, we certainly had some non-traditional trade shows this year. We want to talk about those a little bit?
We did, yeah. I'd love to talk about them. First, Flash Memory Summit. It's one of those things where at our Flash Memory Summit booth, we had about 500 visitors stop by during the show, and even more have come in after the show. And we had a healthy number of people view our virtual demos. Very pleased to see the number of people who got out to look at those demos. As Hiran talked about, companies put in a lot of time to make sure that those demos were up and running, and did our very best to try and emulate being there in person, even though you couldn't actually go to the show. I was fortunate to be selected to present on GenZ and how it's used in high-speed interfaces between systems and pools of resources at FMS. Additionally, we shared the stage with CXL to talk about the industry, or about how the industry sees the interfaces as complementary and the value that each interface brings to the overall solution in a memory-centric environment. It kind of goes to show how these are going to work together to really deal with the ever-increasing amount of data being generated. Then as we moved on to Supercompute, which was the next week, we had even more visitors stop by the booth. We've been to Supercompute over the last 4 years, and we've really created quite a following there. We appreciate the support that we've got from the people who were at Supercompute and over the years have been there and looking at GenZ. And, people continued to view our videos, so I think some had probably seen them at Flash Memory Summit the week before and didn't need to see them again. We absolutely couldn't have created such a great virtual booth experience without the support and participation of our members. And that really was the key to being successful in these 2 virtual events. Hiran, why don't you talk about the members?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, we have many great and dedicated members. They are the reason our organization exists and continues to advance. If you're a member, we have so many ways for you to engage with different committees all year long. We hope you'll reach out and identify ways to be an active part of the organization, and certainly can help you identify ways to get involved. Our members consist of a broad range of folks crossing all the vertical segments for the industry and the ecosystem. The diverse group that we have is one of the reasons GenZ will be successful. And I want to say thank you to all the members for your efforts. And this is the board of directors. We have a great board of directors that provides leadership and guidance. A lot of our success can be attributed to these folks. And I want to thank the directors for their time and dedication to advancing GenZ. GenZ is fortunate to have great people leading the various work groups. I recently joined as a co-chair for one of the committees, and I can tell you there's a lot of time and effort spent behind the scenes that these work group chairs do for their respective teams. A sincere thanks goes out to all of these chairs and all the members that participate in these work groups. If you want to participate, please join via the member workspace. There is a member login at the top of the GenZ website. Also, I want to acknowledge one more person for helping with all of the virtual conferences, the vlogs, and the webinars we've had to do this year. A big thank you goes out to Rachel Watson. This year, more than ever, we've needed to rely on video demos and virtual conferences, and Rachel has really stepped up and made all of that go smoothly. So while I'm quick to acknowledge our achievements, I believe you have some more details on other media coverage, right, Kurtis?
I sure do. Yeah, 2020 was a slower news year for technologies, with COVID and the election taking kind of the front seat in all of the pieces. But I was very pleased with the coverage and the interest we got in GenZ, and the need to learn more about GenZ from folks in the industry, as well as interest from the analysts and press in what progress we're making. So we had a lot of great coverage from the media this year, including contributed articles with electronic design, and you can find all of these articles out on the GenZ website in the news section. And we're just really fortunate and want to say thank you to the press and analysts as they continue to cover the progress GenZ makes. Now, I'd also like to talk about, as we look forward, there's some key things that will continue to evolve and grow in the industry that we'd love to make sure that you're aware of, and we believe GenZ plays a key role in those. The first one is data wrangling. It's really the key to success. We know that the data sphere is continuing to grow. Estimates are in 2025, it'll be somewhere between 160 and 185 zettabytes of data being generated annually. GenZ has the features, the reliability that you need to be able to gather that data, put it into one memory location, and be able to act on it quickly to get to the results, because data in and of itself doesn't have a lot of value. It's the analysis of that data that really proves to be the difference between success and maybe the lack of success for some companies.
Yeah, Kurtis, I kind of want to add a little bit to that too, and I'm very proud of the work that consortium companies have done or are doing. But also, just to kind of relay your point a little bit there, we have, now that we've got a lot of the hardware components ready, from ARM hosts, multiple bridges, 12-port switches, and memory modules, we've been able to, so far, show unmodified in-memory database applications with like Redis and SQLite. What I think is exciting about the next step, to your point, is that we can actually probably start to make modifications to these libraries and allow applications to start taking advantage of that fabric model. I think this is a great point. I'd like to reach out to the consortium members to take part in this effort. There's a lot of exciting promise in this space.
Yeah, I agree with you. And here, I think it was well put. In fact, one of the things that I look at to the second point is, we are going to continue to grow into heterogeneous compute environments where just the processor is not going to be enough. You're going to need offload engines to really make everything work properly. And here on the slide we show FPGAs and GPUs, but think about that as being any sort of offload engine that might be needed. It could be smart NICs that are coming down as being more and more important in environments. As these come out, the one thing we've shown over time is resource allocation is one of the toughest things to figure out, and so you need all of these devices to be first-class citizens on your network and have access to that shared data pool so that when it's time for them to make decisions or help to transform the data, they have immediate access to it.
Yeah, and I kind of want to follow up that a little bit, but at SC19 last year, we showed kind of the world's first UPI to GenZ bridge. That year, we were fairly limited on what we could showcase. We had multiple FPGAs in the data path, which sort of limited our bandwidth and increased our load-to-use latency that was observed by the Xeon. And this, last year was very exciting at that time, but we felt like this year we could definitely improve on that bandwidth and latency and show greater value. So this year, we were able to eliminate one of the FPGAs in the data path, converted to a faster bridge FPGA, and added a PCIe interface for management path into the bridge. So this management path allowed for running GenZ management software, which allowed for us to expand the topology support. So this year, connecting a media box with ZMMs inside the media box with switches built inside, we can showcase load store interface through the Xeon using that switch at an even lower latency than we were able to show last year. And it was an order of magnitude improvement in total bandwidth. So very exciting progress. Hardware's coming along just great. But yeah, so again, I think we're all driving towards that. How can we make all the elements first-class citizens share that memory?
Excellent. Yeah, and in fact, it's great. I'll give a plug again for those videos that Hiren talked about earlier. If you get a chance, get out and look at some of these that have been done. It really showcases why GenZ is needed and how much it's progressed in the last 4 years as we started from very much a blank sheet of paper to a full set of specs that are out there now. And the last point that we're making here is time to results is really the measure of success. It really makes a difference how fast you can get to the insights that your data is going to bring you. And GenZ provides that low latency, high bandwidth, flexible environment that you need to get to those answers quickly. And this is a competitive world. We know that if you can do it and your competitors can't, it gives you a leg up in those environments. And that's one of the reasons we want you to consider what GenZ can do for you, along with all the points I talked about earlier around composability, performance, security. GenZ brings the pieces you need to really light up your environment.
Yeah, Kurtis, to add to that, during one of the SC20 coffee chats, I think we had a great discussion on heterogeneous compute, kind of your second bullet there, and how this paradigm will impact the data center. We discussed the capability of GenZ to support highly scalable and flexible topologies, multiple accelerators, processing elements, interacting with pooled and shared memory in a low latency, kind of high bandwidth manner. And then we also discussed kind of how that will change the way software is developed to take advantage of this, right? So even today, we've run a lot of testing without application modifications, and now we're kind of looking at how do we modify that software to take advantage of what we're doing. So we also discussed the innovation potential in this space, how various memory side accelerators or computational fabric attached memory devices can be deployed to accelerate the time to solution, and how certain use cases such as machine learning or AI are ripe for optimization in this space. So it's definitely a very exciting time for Gen Z. The innovation potential that is unlocked with this technology is great. So I'm really excited to see what we can do together in 2021.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it as well. I think 2021, with the ability to return to maybe working a little bit closer together, a little less virtually, will really help to accelerate what Gen Z can do for us. And with that, for the listeners out there, really want to give you the opportunity to join with us. If you want to learn about membership for the consortium, or you want to receive our newsletter, go to the GenZ website. It's genzconsortium.org. It has all of the information that we talked about here in this presentation. It's got a great educational section. It's got it in the news section. All of those things will give you an idea of what we're doing and when we're doing it. In addition, if you want some real-time updates, follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. They're places that we use to kind of make sure that the consortium members are aware of what we're doing and get a real-time input on things that might be coming up, like the webinars that Hiran talked about. And with that, I would like to say thank you to everybody who joined in, and see if there might be any questions for us. Rachel?
Yes, actually, we had a couple of questions come in from the audience. So the first question was, when will a spec for 106 gigabytes or 112 gigabytes per lane be released?
Hiran, do you want to take that, or you want me to?
Go ahead, Curtis.
Okay. So right now we actually are working on the 112 gigabit per second spec that we don't have a timeline for at this point, but I expect it to be something that will be ready for release in the next year. And it will allow us to actually double our bandwidth. So we're very excited about getting to that next level.
Great. Our next question was, first, a statement. The software is highly important on top of the Gen Z setup. Are there multiple versions of the software coming from multiple sources, or a common code base being used? And what is the best option in the former case?
Go ahead. You want to take this one, Hiran? I can maybe shed a little bit of light, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the first part, the statement. Software is highly important for Gen Z. I do want to say that a few things have been, like the lower level portions, the drivers, etc. There is a sort of a committee, or a GLSS, as I called it, the Gen Z Linux subsystem team, that's sort of defining some of those drivers, etc. So it's becoming common in that way. There are quite a few companies that have joined that. And then as far as the higher level software side of things, I think our partnership, I believe, with OFA kind of helps hopefully bridge some of that as well and try to create a common code base. So those are my thoughts, Curtis, if you want to add to that.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say is, of course, there's multiple levels of software. You hit the lower level. I think you're spot on. The work we're doing with OFA will be open, and so it will be what I think of as the best option for a Fabric Manager, because it will be a common code base that everybody can look at. OFA, for people who don't know about Open Fabrics Alliance, they are completely open. Everything they do is published openly and available. That's one of the reasons we wanted to work with them, as we felt like that really could be an advantage for people who are using Gen Z, as well as OFA, who the work that's being done will be highlighted on Gen Z, but it's not limited to Gen Z, so it will also help manage other fabrics. And then finally, I think Hiran, you talked a little bit about some of the database work that's being done. Now that's going to be something that is going to be a little more specific to each software vendor at the application level, what they decide to pick up and use versus what they think might not be most advantageous for their application. And so we're kind of all over the spectrum depending on the level of software that you're looking at. Any follow-up here?
No, I would definitely agree. You know, I think that to date, we've only used unmodified application software, but I definitely feel like there's changes that can be made to take advantage of what GenZ offers. So whether or not that's a common code base, I don't know yet.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, Rachel?
Nope. I think with that, we can go ahead and say thank you again to all of the visitors and attendees today for our State of the State. And thank you again to Kurtis and Hiran for sharing all of this great information. And we'll also go ahead and remind everyone, do please visit the GenZ website, genzconsortium.org, where you can view all of the 2020 technology demonstrations, sign up to get more information, and be sure you're connected in all the ways possible to the consortium, and so we can continue to see great success in the coming year. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.